Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna say.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of May 4th in the year 2024. I'm still Michael James. I'm still up here in the 49th Ward. And we've got a guest now who I've been trying to get on the show for a while. I first met her when I was teaching at Columbia College. I taught a class called Organizing for Social Change. And I have to say, one of my best students ever was the one and only Lauren Deutsch. And Lauren is our guest today. Hello, Lauren.
Hi, Michael. It cracks
Good.
me up when you said I was your best student ever.
Yeah, well, you certainly were one of the best, that's for sure. And you've gone on to do some really great work. Just so at the top of this discussion or interview, we'll let people know that you, for years, ran the Chicago Jazz Institute, and you are a photographer of some renown, and you've been taking pictures of musicians and other things for a long, long time. And one of the reasons I think you got back to me to say, yeah, let's do it, was you have an event coming up. How about telling us a little bit about it?
Yes, that is true. I have um, created an immersive exhibition of my music photography that is it's designed to create an environment where you could feel like you're actually stepping inside of the music. And this is a first for me. It's involved having to learn a lot of technical things that weren't really in my wheelhouse before, but I have taken to them rather quickly, and I'm enjoying this new evolution of the work that I've been engaged in doing for the last 45 years.
How about before we get more into the various pictures and the event itself, talking a little bit about what you've been doing for the last 45 years? Because I think a lot of that time you were with the Chicago Jazz Institute. And I'm a longtime jazz fan, although I kind of know more about the old days on Blue Note than more current stuff. But you're right in the thick of it. Talk about it a little bit, Lauren.
Well, actually, what I was thinking of talking about to begin with is, you know, how when you're in your 20s, you really have no idea what's going to happen, but you just plow forward towards whatever goal or dream that you have. And I always knew I wanted to be an artist. That was for sure. Um, but I didn't really have any examples or models of how to get there. So one of the things I was thinking about, Michael, was after the Organizing for Social Change class, you invited me to join Rising Up Angry. I think I was all of 19 years old at the time. So I was the baby and just really learning everything. But one of the things remember getting involved in there was the cooperative energy supply production, which was a series of concerts that we put on in various places, hotels downtown.
Midland.
Anyway, I had no idea then that learning how to produce concerts was going to be something that would come in handy later in my life. Um, and as it turned out, it did. Um, but the other thing I wanted to talk about was it's sort of the thing that really became my North Star in terms of the work that I ended up pursuing happened around the same time back in the mid 70s. I joined the Chicago Women's Liberation Union, which at that time had lots of different sort of sub chapters. And I was part of one called the Women's Prison Project. And as part of that project, we went down to Dwight State Prison to work with the residents there. And our subversive agenda was that we were going to go there several times under the guise of teaching art and poetry, I think. And then we were going to sneak in video cameras and interview the women and create, some kind of video uprising thing. So we went, and it was really interesting. Like the first time we went there, there were maybe 6 people in the class. The next time there were 15. The next time there were 30, because the women had no sort of other opportunity to hang together, to be together, to communicate and converse. But we I think we were teaching them how to do macrame plant holders.
With a little politics around the edges?
Well, we would, sit and talk. But what I discovered was um, that even the act of doing something as simple as making a little bit of macrame really enlivened these women in ways in which it was clear that when you're living in an environment where your identity and your dignity are being stripped away every day in big ways and small ways, that having the opportunity to create something that you made with your hands and or your head or your heart was really empowering. And that really hugely impacted me and the way I thought about the importance of making art and experiencing art really became my North Star. And it jived really well when I began to be involved with the Jazz Institute, where I served on the board from the early 80s to the mid 90s, after which I became executive director. But one of the primary principles of the Jazz Institute was to make the music as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. So everything we did was free. And so this idea of giving access to everyone for listening to art, for creating art, all of the education programs we did were also free. That all became, sort of really aligned with what I had, sort of seen for myself as what my passion and where my mission should be.
Well, Lauren, when you were with the Jazz Institute, um, talk about some of the events that you helped to put on and some of the accomplishments um, that you think helped to make Chicago a better place. We were already in the forefront of culture, and you've helped keep us there. Fill us in a little bit.
Well, when I started in the mid 90s, we weren't doing very much. We were programming the Jazz Festival, which the Jazz Institute um, lobbied the city to create. So we were really the instigators for that festival to
Was
happen.
that in the days of Lois Weisberg as head of cultural affairs?
No, actually, it was before cultural affairs existed, and
Oh,
Heather
okay.
Blandick was the person who actually gave the okay for it.
That's all
And
right.
Heather is the person who eventually helped launch the Department of Cultural Affairs. We had not had any municipal agency for the arts until the late 70s, early 80s. Anyway, we weren't doing very much. We did the festival, we did the jazz fair, and I came in with no experience at all as an arts administrator. And it was not even something that I knew that I had the skill set to do. But it turned out that because I really, after serving on the board for 14 years, um, I had really embraced the mission of the organization. And in a strange way, not a strange way, in an interesting way, um, being on that board was my training for my job because the Jazz Institute didn't have a staff yet. So we did everything and we did it by committee, and everything was done by consensus. And that's also kind of a thing that I learned in my sort of growing up in the organizing world was, how to get things done and really making consensus an important aspect of how you made decisions became and remained important to me in my service at the Jazz Institute of Chicago. Um, so I jumped in. I learned a lot. I realized I had skills and connections that were useful, which included Helen Doria, who worked at the Heartland Cafe. And when I um, stepped up to the executive director job, she was head of the um, well, I don't know what the department was at the Chicago Park District, but it was the one that had to do with putting on events. And so
Yeah.
I knocked on her door and I said, I think it'd be really cool to do a series of jazz concerts in neighborhoods all over the city. Could we partner with the Park District to do that? And Helen said she would see if she could find some money to do that. And she came up with $9,000. And that was how we launched this Jazz City series, which started in 1998 and continues to put on very high level concerts in neighborhoods all over the city. And that program was actually the first one in the city to really focus on providing that kind of experience to folks who lived in neighborhoods and couldn't necessarily afford to buy tickets to come to Symphony Center or go to concerts downtown. We developed a really wonderful community that followed the program from one end of the city to the other, that brought people from Naperville in the northwest suburbs to Englewood, where we really broke down a lot of geographic and racial barriers through this music, which in and of itself seems to have an ability to draw people together. And because it's a very powerful and spiritual sort of music and experience. So Jazz City um, really was one of the first, and to me, one of the most important things that I did at the Jazz Institute. Um, and to start it, I thought it was important to meet with all of the music directors from the different Park District um, field houses, that they should have input. And that also became really my strategy for everything that I did. It was, you know, I didn't know anything. I started an education program by sitting down with the high school teachers and asking them what they needed and what could we do. And out of that came a really robust education program that included jam sessions. Started out at Hot House, now they're at the Jazz Showcase for high school kids. At that time, there was no place for high school kids to jam together, and in this way, they were also able to meet other kids from all over the city and eventually the suburbs too. And so they also learned about building community through these jam sessions. We addressed other needs that the teachers expressed as well, and I formed a teachers advisory council. And that in and of itself, because music teachers in Chicago public schools are really taken for granted, are really disrespected. They don't get any of the privileges that the math and science teachers get. They learn that their music class is considered a frill or a reward for students and not something that's actually essential. So um, so gathering these teachers and empowering them to make decisions about what our organization could do for them was another thing that I'm really proud of having done. And um, eventually I kind of stumbled into partnering with this organization in Poznan, Poland, who I ended up developing and co-producing a jazz festival there called Made in Chicago for 12 years. And was told at the end of that time by some of the young musicians in Poznan that the festival had helped to build a community for young jazz musicians there, where there had not previously been any kind of way that they felt that they could all come together. So
Where was that? Where is that?
Poznan, Poland is
Oh, it's in Poland.
yeah, it's kind of in the north, the center north. It's 2 hours, 2.5 hours from Berlin, and it's close to the coast. Um, yeah, so for 12 years, I took about 100 musicians to Poland, and for many of them, it opened the doors to Europe. Like a lot of them had never been there before, and they were able to meet other producers and so that's another thing that I did that I felt.
Well, you know that I'm learning a lot, and I wish I had followed it more closely along the way. But you did retire, and you are now about to put on this exhibit. So tell us a little bit about what's going on with your photography, which I've seen your pictures over the years. You took a couple of great pictures of me that I still love. One with my son Jesse up on my shoulders, another with me with the crutch when I had a broken foot at Columbia College.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what I think would be great for people to hear about is a little bit about the photos that you have going into this exhibit and where it's going to be held.
Okay, so this is it's an immersive exhibition, and I I want to show a few of these pictures because then it'll be
Mhm.
easier to talk about them if you could see them.
Uh-huh.
So this is a picture of the AACM's Great Black Music Ensemble, and it's a good example of the kind of work that I'm doing now. And what I have discovered is a way that I think really is able to communicate the power and the energy and the spirit of the music. It's kind of a secret sauce, although the methodology is really simple. I shoot at a slow shutter speed, and I move the camera and my body to the music, and so it feels really like a collaborative experience that I'm actually collaborating with the musicians. So you could see there's a lot of movement in these photographs, and I felt that that was I felt that if I could actually make them move using some kind of software, that that would begin to take these photographs to the next level. And so that's very much what this exhibition is about.
I'm liking the blur because it gives legitimacy to my photos. You know, most of my photos are blurry, and once in a while I get a good one, but I do like the blur. You
Well,
know, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, no, because that it gives you a different sort of a sense of um, the liveliness of a photograph. The digital photography now has sort of created this sense that you have to see every single pore on somebody's face in order for a photograph to like be acceptable. But I come from the same sort of era as you in photography anyway. So the event will be on May 9th and May 10th. It's an exhibition. The hours are from 5 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. on each of those days, Thursday, May 9th and Friday, May 10th. It's at Asian Improv Arts Midwest in their new building at 4875 North Elston Avenue in Chicago. It's 60630. The exhibition runs for about an hour, so it'll be on a loop. So whenever you come between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., you'd be able to see the whole thing within an hour.
Well, for you people who didn't get to see these photos, I would say you could go to youtube.com/heartlandmedia/videos and see Lauren's work. But you could probably, Lauren, tell us your website. And then I wanted to ask one last question. Is that new venue where you're going to have this at the Asian Improv Arts? Is that Tatsu Aoki? Is that the guy who started
Yes.
it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And Tatsu and Edward Wilkerson will be playing live music to improvising to the images that are on the screen.
Oh, that'll be the music we should play for this segment. You want to give us a little bit of a kind of advice or cheer on to photographers and young photographers about what to do with their fancier and fancier cameras or their simple old, you know, box cameras or whatever they're
I
using?
don't know. I'm really an old school girl. It took me forever to actually cross the digital divide. And I think that the best advice I have, because it is antithetical to the way that most people use digital cameras, is don't take a billion pictures hoping you just get one good one. Really take the time to look at and compose something that you feel is visually strong and just wait for that right moment to happen.
Lauren Deutsch, one of my best students ever. Tell us your website so people can go look at your work.
You can see my work at laurendeutschphoto.com.
Thank you so much for coming on live from the Heartland. I'm going to put on some jazz right after we do this recording, and I really appreciate. And I'm going to come and see this exhibit on May
Great.
9th or 10th, and I'll see you there.
Okay, thanks so much, Michael.